Opinions and stories around the game we love, told by your favorite storytellers. Stay up to date with all things cricket. Subscribe to Crickbuzz's YouTube channel and press that bell icon now.
Now it's the big one. Looking ahead to who are going to be the other semi-finalists from Pakistan's group. 3 contenders officially there: Afghanistan, New Zealand and India. India play day after tomorrow, but tomorrow is going to be the game that decides India's fate. New Zealand and Afghanistan, because of the 2 losses early in the tournament, it's not all in India's hands. They've done the bit they needed to do, thrashed Afghanistan, thrashed Scotland, waiting to do the same to Namibia, but they need this result to go their way. Why? This is what the points table will tell the story of. India at the moment in 3rd place on 4 points. They beat Namibia, they get to 6 points, but that'll be in the last game. New Zealand win, they get to 8, match over, 2 Qs, nothing more to be done. If Afghanistan win, then of course net run rate comes into the picture, and India then have the advantage of furthering what they did against Scotland and Afghanistan and climbing over to get that 2nd spot and play the semi-final against England in Abu Dhabi. Well, how do we see the 2 teams match, gentlemen? It's going to be a big game. Not often you see a non-India game being the focus of everybody in India, DK. New Zealand against Afghanistan, you'd have to obviously say the senior team are the favourites. But Afghanistan have shown enough to show what they can show and do.
Well, for a start, I think Afghanistan, apart from their own country and their own population, they'll have another 1.3 billion people who will be cheering for them, which is very good for a start. They've played some really good cricket. I think the only game they haven't competed is the game against India, but the rest of it, against Pakistan, they did compete. They took them right down to the wire before Asif Ali hit that penultimate over 4 sixes. But they look a solid side. Their batting looks good. Their bowling obviously is dependent on a couple of the spinners. Mujibur Rahman, we saw a few videos of him training and getting ready for this game, which is good news for the India and for Afghanistan in many ways. So if they go on to put up a good performance, a very strong performance obviously will put a bit of pressure on India. But irrespective, Afghanistan need to do something to somehow find a way deep down to beat New Zealand, which is a possibility because obviously the matchups are good. They're dependent on spin. New Zealand obviously playing not the strongest batting, playing the extra bowlers. So obviously they, a couple of wickets could put pressure on them. But as we all know, New Zealand are a team which always punches a little above its weight, especially in multi-nation tournaments. So are they going to do that tomorrow in the afternoon? I guess time will tell.
Yeah, it's one of those ironies of tournament play. Just the other day, India were absolutely walloping Afghanistan, thrashing their bowlers, taking wickets, doing everything possible. Moment the game finished, "Aao bhai, now you're on our side. You've got to go and win for us." But that's the beauty of sports, Zahir. But just looking at New Zealand's last 2 performances, they were not as fluent as expected. And that too against lesser opposition, shall we say. That is something that could give India hope and Afghanistan hope as well.
Well, first of all, GB, which Joyda maybe 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line is going to ask this question. Which was the game was most talked about in 2021 World Cup? And that game is New Zealand-Afghanistan. Everyone has been talking about it. So yeah, before we can head to New Zealand team now, and New Zealand team is basically what matters. As you're saying, they've been looking a little scratchy. They struggled against Scotland a little bit, then against Namibia also. It was like they had to fight hard. But what matters is they managed to secure those 2 points. And what matters is they look out now for the final game as well, which is just to get those 2 points. They don't have pressure of how they want to play it. It's just about, doesn't matter how you get it there. It's just about getting those 2 points and going to the semis. So that's what that camp will be thinking about. The Indian camp will be thinking about tomorrow's game, getting together, watching the game together. And Afghanistan will possibly be relishing the fact that there is such a tremendous support for them for tomorrow's game. And I think, that may be a distant dream for them that, that's the way they play their cricket. They have that kind of passion. But the fan following and how the support, what support means in terms of sheer numbers and volume, I think that they'll experience it tomorrow.
Yeah, they certainly will, as long as they know how to deal with it, because India have now started over all these years, and both the gentlemen who I'm talking to know all about playing for a nation who are behind you, but also expecting so much of you. So DK, they should let the expectation be a positive for them and not let it pressurize them in any way, looking over their shoulders and seeing 1.3 billion plus.
That's in the World Cup 2011. I remember. I think Sachin Paji was giving the statement. I think, or maybe Paddy Upton. I'm not very sure. Doesn't matter. But pressure is a privilege, and you can look at 1.3 billion and say, oh, there's so much pressure, or you can say there is 1.3 billion people hoping that we'll do something special. I think Afghanistan need to look at that as not a pressure but a privilege. The fact that there is so many people that will be cheering for them, and if they can pull off a miraculous victory, that'll be fabulous, not only for them as a country but also for India, because that'll give India a great chance to qualify as well. So they have it. They'll feel what it is to be in India's shoes for once when they play tomorrow, which is big boots to fill in many ways. To play for India is no joke, and to keep constantly playing under that kind of pressure is not easy as well. So they'll feel it. They'll know what the love they'll get tomorrow. I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot of people cheering for Afghanistan, and a lot of them will be Indians.
But just to build on Zahir's point about the question I asked about New Zealand, and yes, they were a little scratchy in those two games, but the fact is they got over the line, and like we talked about ticking boxes, they found that the lower order is able to deliver for them. And again, if you look at law of averages, someone like Kane Williamson will not fall short 3 times in a row. So that's another cause for worry for Afghanistan.
Well, I think from New Zealand's point of view, GB, it's just about going out there and doing that. I was just thinking about, what's going to happen if say New Zealand wins tomorrow or they lose tomorrow, right? So New Zealand wins tomorrow, they will be playing against England. So they have that one account to settle. So, so they will be all charged up to really settle the account of 2019 finals there. And if India goes through, then it's going to be a really a great game of cricket, which we know that how two teams play, and with the momentum right now of not really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel to going through is going to be amazing. So from that point of view, I think that's the motivation New Zealand will have for tomorrow. They'll be thinking that tomorrow's game is important, not only that we're going to the semis, but we have a chance to knock England out and then play the finals. So I think that's good enough motivation to have to get everything going. The game is going to be played in Abu Dhabi, so I think that's one thing which is going against Afghanistan. I feel New Zealand, if New Zealand were playing Afghanistan in Sharjah, maybe you had a better chance. Not after looking at today's wicket, maybe this sort of wicket would have helped New Zealand. But nonetheless, so far, Abu Dhabi track has been the most batting friendly tracks in the tournament. And looking at that, New Zealand can breathe relatively easy. So even though Mujib is playing, it's not going to be that much of a factor, I feel, just because so far we've seen that the track in Abu Dhabi has been batting friendly.